Mark made that choice again to stand up into the line of fire. He could have ducked below the wall. He probably would have lost half his platoon, but he made the choice.
In between all the chaos, in between all the situation that they were living in, he said 115, 120 degrees, he was helping kids and women.
Over 1.3 million Americans have given their lives in military service. In 2023 alone, 136 law enforcement officers died in the line of duty. Behind every number is a story. The Ultimate Sacrifice tells the story of two Gold Star families and a hero in blue.
My name is Rachel Flick, and this is the story of my husband, Micah Flick. The day that Micah died was a very normal Monday. It was the Monday after the Super Bowl. We'd hosted people in our home and had a big party. It was actually a really lovely day together. I can tell that there was some kind of inclination, whether that was from God, that something was coming. He was incredibly focused on us for the 5 days before he died, taking the kids to gymnastics meet, wanting to go out on a date together, being exceptionally kind. He wasn't a PDA guy, but he was holding my hand at the Super Bowl party, you know, and just really being intentional, even asking the night before he passed if I would just lay with him and hold him in bed. And I'm so grateful that I made time to do that because it was our last night together.
My name is Debbie Lee, and this is the story of my son, Navy SEAL Mark Allen Lee. So my son Mark was deployed to Iraq, specifically Ramadi, Iraq, in 2006. He went over there, I believe the end of March, beginning of April. I don't know the exact dates that they left, but you may remember back in 2006, you know, Ramadi, Iraq was where the majority of our casualties were coming from. Mark's teammates said that was the hellhole of Iraq, or the worst piece of real estate over there. But these guys are, you know, this is what they prepare for. This is what they're trained for. They're the tip of the spear. They do this the best. And so I know that Mark was ready. I know he's prepared. I know his teammates at Task Unit Bruiser, you know, we're some of the best of the best, and ready to go defend us and the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day, willing to make that sacrifice if it was required. To defend the country that he loves so much.
My name is Coral Doolittle, and I am Corporal Humberto Sanchez's mom. He was killed in Kabul, Afghanistan in August 26, 2021. When he was a little kid, his dad was a really abusive person and really violent. So he grew up watching all that. So I think that made him that protector that he was at the end. In high school, he was his junior year, senior year, he didn't know what he was gonna do with his life. So I started like guiding him, why don't you join the military? So one of his things was like, I need to do something for my mom. And I think that's why he enlisted, because he wants to protect mom and his sister. I think that's when he find the purpose. Because he said, I'm gonna go to the Marines. And I said, why the Marines? And he just always replied, I just wanna be, if I'm gonna be there, I just wanna be a badass Marine.
That Monday morning, he wakes up at 6 a.m. He gets ready to go to a task force called Beat Auto Theft through law enforcement. And they had a suspect that they were surveilling. And this was something they did every Monday, was work on auto theft and property crime on a team that was multidisciplinary through the state. And they would do a lot of research on these people. They would follow them for a long time. And then when they felt like they had a safe opportunity, they would go and arrest them someplace in public, you know, a surprise to that person who had stolen the vehicle. And so Micah and his team of 10 people approach Manuel Zatina, and they don't know that he's armed. They don't know that he is high on meth. So he has extraordinary strength that they're not expecting. And Micah's partner, Scott Stone, goes to arrest Zatina, and Zatina slips his grasp. He pulls a gun from his hoodie pocket and immediately shoots Scott in the hip. He goes to execute Scott, and Micah grabs the gun and is wrestling him for the gun. And in that wrestling, he takes a bullet in the neck, maybe an inch or two above his vest, and began to bleed out very quickly. The people on the scene said, even as they were performing CPR, that they saw the life leave his eyes. And so that comforts me to know that he didn't suffer, that it wasn't a long, scary experience for him. So I am living the suburban mom life. I'm picking my kids up from school. I'm getting my daughter ready for ballet. I'm involved in ministry at this time, and I'm also talking to a friend who's recently had a miscarriage. I mean, if you can just imagine, life was like rolling on full tilt in that hour. And because she's telling me about this traumatic experience for her, she's crying on the phone. I was, shimmying my daughter into her tights for ballet and listening, and I start to miss phone calls. But I don't want to interrupt her because she's having this time to share her heart. But after I missed 6, 7, 8 calls, I was like, friend, I'm so sorry, but I'm missing calls and I need to see what's going on. And as I switch over, it's Micah's mom, and she's frantic. And she says that I have to get to the hospital, that Micah's been shot. And I was very much in self-preservation mode at that time, thinking, one of his nicknames was Mr. Officer Safety, and always expected the highest levels of excellence from his team. And he always wore his vest and did everything above and beyond, double, triple checking for safety measures. And so I thought, it's okay, like he probably got shot in the vest or he got shot in a limb, and he'll go to the hospital and we'll have, a night of him being in surgery, and we'll keep vigil by his bedside. And so I start to round up the kids, and I'm like, guys, Daddy's been shot. We're going to the hospital.
Yeah, August 2nd, 2006 was obviously a day that forever changed our lives. And that was the day that we were notified that my son, Mark Allen Lee, had been killed in action. Later, after we'd been notified and had processed through things, we started to get calls from his teammates and started to hear the heroic story of what he did that day. And it was 115, 120 degrees in Iraq that day. He carried the big gun, so he carried anywhere from 150 to 180 pounds in addition to his own weight. I've been to Iraq twice. I've felt those extreme temperatures. I was not carrying 150 to 180 pounds or having bullets whizzed by me, so I can't even imagine how you do that in such extreme temperatures, in such extreme conditions. But there were 4 of the SEALs that were on the rooftop. Mark's buddy Ryan Job had been severely injured. The bullets had hit his weapon and he had severe shrapnel injuries to the head. He fell to the ground. 2 of the SEALs dropped to their knees to help Ryan. Mark could have made that very same choice that day, but his choice was to stand up in the line of fire, hoping to provide the cover so they could get a medic up there to pay attention to Ryan. And they did. They got the medic up there. He took one look at Ryan and said, "We got to get him out of here immediately, or there's no chance for survival." So not just once, but a second time again, Mark made that choice to stand up into the line of fire all by himself, right where Ryan had just been shot. And he stood up again, provide the cover so they could all move down off of the rooftop. And they did send Ryan off for medical attention. He actually survived 3 more years, died from complications to surgery, but they headed back to the base, which I'm proud to tell you was named Camp Mark Lee in his memory. And I got to visit Camp Mark Lee in 2007. But they got back there, and I remember Chris Kyle telling me later, they were pretty sure that there was no way that Ryan could survive the injuries that he had. They were preparing themselves for getting that news that Ryan had died. And as they were taking off their gear, getting some water to refresh themselves, the chief came in and said, "We just found 30 of the insurgents that just attacked us." And without hesitation, Mark said, "Roger that, let's go get them." So they climbed back into their Bradleys and they headed back to Ramadi, Iraq. They cleared several houses. They went in the last house Mark would be in. They cleared the bottom of the house and they started up the steps and they heard Mark yell, "On me!" And they knew what he was saying. He was saying, I got the lead on this. You guys follow me. And as they went up those steps, they drew fire through the window. And for the last and final time, Mark made that choice again to stand up into the line of fire. He could have ducked below the wall. He probably would have lost half his platoon, but he made the choice to stand up and to give his life, willingly making that sacrifice to save his teammates. And it just, you think back to that. Where do you get that strength? Where do you get that courage to be able to do that? Mark didn't weigh the pros and cons. It wasn't like, okay, well, here's the positive, here's the negative. Should I do it? Should I not do it? He just knew it was the right thing to do and willingly gave his life to save his teammates. And that comes back to each one of us. The freedoms that we enjoy every day are paid, and it is a dear, dear price. For us as a family, it's not just a slogan that freedom isn't free. We know that price. We know that. And I'm so proud of Mark and the choice that he made to give his life so that we could live. Mark was a believer. He knew Jesus Christ was his Lord and Savior. I know where that kid is today. His journey now to his forever home is complete. But I'm honored and I was blessed to be his mom and to have the courage and the fortitude and the perseverance is absolutely amazing. This back here is actually the base where Mark served, was Camp Mark Lee. And this is a picture of his teammates at the sign of Camp Mark Lee. I brought back some of the soil that's over there from that base. But this is one of Saddam's palaces. And he never stayed in more than 2 nights because he was afraid that someone was going to kill him, rightfully so. But this was one of his palaces that they turned into Camp Mark Lee.
He spent 2 deployments in Virginia guarding the nuclear base that they have in there. But then when he come back to Camp Pendleton, he said, Mom, I'm gonna receive orders soon. He messaged me and said, Mom, I don't want you to be worried, but I think they are gonna send us to Afghanistan. He's like, turn on your news. The Taliban is taking over. We are supposed to go only to evacuate the embassy. And I said, are you scared? And he said, no. I trained for 4.5 years. I prepared myself to do this, and we are ready.
My name is Ruben Roque, and I was Bert's oldest cousin. When I found out that he wanted to become a Marine, I was real proud of him because it was something that I wanted to do. It's something that you want to do to give back to the country, that open the doors and give you a dream. When you sign up to the Marines, you always have one-way ticket. You never guarantee it back. And he told me, next time I get deployed, I ain't coming back.
On the 21st, I received a message. And then he said, Mom, I'm alive. Barely, but I'm alive. He said they sent like 100 of us. And there was thousands of people trying to get in. They just somehow like run over us. And a bunch of us actually got on the floor, and I probably have a few broken ribs. I am all bruised, and I feel like I was dying. I feel my spirit like leaving my body. And then he said, Mom, I think I lost all my faith in humanity, like after seeing all this. And I said, you have to help them. I feel like he was upset of how I was talking to him. That when we cut the conversation, because he was just resting for a few hours, that I never said I love you. And that was the last time I talked to him. Like I was like trying to put in his head, please help, please do something for those kids. That I never said I love you. But I know that he knows that I love him.
They recall the moments their lives changed, with knocks at the door and rings from a telephone.
I now get another call, and it's an unknown number, and I'm thinking, you know, what a poor time for a spam call, and I decline it, and they immediately call back, and I was like, oh, that is not good. And so I pick it up, and it's the undersheriff. And he said, you know, I came to get you and you're not here. And I'm thinking, yeah, I got to get out of here. I got to get to the hospital. And he's like, do not go anywhere. I will come and get you. And I was like, I was going to drive, and they don't think I can drive. And that's bad. If they don't think I can drive, that's bad. And so I then have the most painstaking 10 minutes of my life. Levi is walking around in circles in the grass in the front yard saying, God, please don't let my daddy be dead. Please don't let my daddy be dead. Eliana is crying, and I am trying with everything in me to believe that he's still alive and that he's going to make it. And I'm actually pacing in the driveway, waiting for the undersheriff to get there. And he slides around the corner. He opens the door, he slides out of the car, and he's just absolutely broken. The sorrow and the pain is evident in his eyes. And he said, Rachel, we did everything we could to save him, and he didn't make it. And something in me is just like, I have no idea what's coming. I have no idea how to navigate this. And kind of felt like I was being sucked into this undertow of an entirely new world and an experience that I didn't know how to navigate. And it's funny, I look back and I'm like, why did I feel like that was the most important thing, was like how to navigate this? Like, why not think, what do I think about this? Or how do I feel about this? But I was looking for some kind of a guide. And it's so interesting because that day I had waited to watch the episode of This Is Us with the fire when Jack dies. And it's that day that Rebecca had told the triplets that their dad had died. And I love that show because I feel like it so authentically represents a lot of relationships. And I watch her, 6 hours earlier go through what this looks like and tell her kids. And I am clinging to that in this moment, that my kids are following in behind me. They had taken a different car to the hospital. And I put them on my lap, one on each knee, holding them close. And I said, you guys, Daddy's with Jesus. He's not here anymore. I love that he was a man of integrity and honor and strength that would give his life when the time came. But that's not what law enforcement is meant for, you know? It's not supposed to be a war zone at home. And it has become one. This is our last family photo shoot with Micah. The twins are 5 here. They were 7 when he passed. And I'm so grateful to have these pictures. It was a really beautiful day. And it ended up being that these were the photos that we used for the funeral and for the media, and some really precious memories here.
And we were celebrating my birthday that night, and my girlfriend had given me the willow tree angel. And those are the collector angels that have wire wings on them, and each one has a character quality. And the one that she gave me was courage. She said, you just remind me of such a woman of courage, of all that you've been through in your life, and you still love God, and you're still positive, and you still serve Him. And little did we know how much more courage was going to be required. And so as we were celebrating, having cake and ice cream, my son called. I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, where are you? Nothing in his voice to alert me that anything was wrong. He wasn't talking too fast. He wasn't crying. He wasn't screaming. And I said, well, it's Wednesday night. I'm a small group. Why, what's up? And he said, how long will it take you to get home? I thought, well, that's an odd question. I don't know, 5 minutes, 7 minutes? Why, what's up? And he said, you just need to come home. And I got out and he said, Mom, the Navy's here. And you know, as a military family, when they show up at your doorstep, it's not good. If he were wounded, they would have called us and got us to him. And as I walked into my house, because they'd been in there for about an hour trying to find me, they'd been in my home. And they said, we can tell by being in your home, you're a woman of faith. And you're going to need to rely on that faith for what we're about to tell you. Your son, Mark Allen Lee, has been killed in action. And as a parent, that's the most devastating news you could ever receive. At that point, I'd been a widow for 12 years. I'd walked through death before. And I knew what grief was like, but I knew this was going to be much, much harder. But even at that point, I knew how I was going to get through. I knew where my strength was going to come from. God was still the same God on August 2nd as he was on August 1st. His character hadn't changed. My circumstances had drastically changed, but my God had not changed. Memorabilia in here of his teammates. This book was written by his task unit commander Jocko Willink and his lieutenant Leif Babbitt, and they're doing great things in their leadership, but this is what they had written in there. This one's from Leif. He says, "To Mama Lee, I can never thank you enough for your love and support through bad times and good. On that darkest of days on August 2nd, 2006, when we lost Mark, I was crushed and thought you must have been devastated beyond measure. When we spoke on the phone, it was you who comforted me. Mark was an incredible warrior, a constant source of humor, and a loyal teammate and friend. It was my greatest honor to serve with such men. I miss him every day, but I'm comforted to know I will see him again one day. You've often said Mark's gift to you was your adopted sons, but Mark's gift to us was far greater. Our Mama Lee, what a blessing you are to us all. Love, Leif."
Then on the 26th, I just got up like normal. I right away, as soon as I got out of my room, I went to the kitchen, like start making my coffee, turned the news on, and right away I hear the Taliban. We just have an explosion. And then right away they say there's another explosion. And there's a gunfire. I messaged my husband. I'm like, I need someone here. He's like, nothing happened. Nobody called you. Nobody messaged you. You don't have an email. The day went on. And then I have to go pick up my kids from the bus stop. And then as soon as my kid got on the car, he said, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, there was an attack in the airport. And then he looked at me and I said, "And I know your brother is in one of the gates." And I think that by that point, my heart already told me, like, your kid is not okay. And I hear my phone. I was not sleeping. It was 2 a.m. I was not sleeping. And I'm like, I hear my phone. And I'm like, I look at it and it says California.
My name's Alan. I'm Corell's husband. I'd known Bert for a little over 3 years, the time we were together. To answer the phone call, to have the Marine Corps looking for you, not a position anybody wants to be in when they know that their son's deployed.
So they said, well, we are gonna be there in a few minutes. I dressed up and then I went downstairs and we were waiting at the door. They come in and then just like that, your son died serving his country.
So when I first heard the news, it was real difficult to swallow the pill due to the fact that we had had a previous conversation about this happening. And at the beginning, Coral got a hold of my wife and told her. And we were at work. It was like a normal day. And she came up to my work and wanted to talk to me, and her eyes were watering. And she told me that he was gone. At the moment, I froze. I couldn't process it. And we talked for a little bit, and then I went to work. And I was distracted until finally, boom, it hit me. To know that he was gone. That it was true what he said. And I lost it.
Like his Purple Heart, that's one of the pieces like that we keep in here. This one is the Congressional Gold Medal. And we received this one last year in September.
Mark's actual uniforms that he wore in here. We've got his boots, his swim gear, his notorious flip-flops. Navy SEALs are known for their cargo shorts and flip-flops. And then the patch that his teammates made and wore the rest of the deployment after he was killed.
One of the pieces that I love, it's this little drawing that you're like, it's a drawing. Well, it's actually now a tattoo on my shoulder because I have a whole like sleeve of my son's memorial piece, and I just find this one last year. One of the art teachers sent it to me.
I remember very distinctly after Micah died that I would shake my fist at the Lord metaphorically and say, I don't want you to make beauty from my ashes. I want the life that I used to have. And I had a severe form of PTSD, and we call it widow brain, where you've lost your ability to focus, executive function. I couldn't read a book. I struggled in traffic. I couldn't anticipate when people would turn or shift lanes. I needed help with the most basic of tasks. And in that, I was desperate for identity, for finding myself or meaning again in my life. And I struggled with suicidal ideation. And if it hadn't been for the intimate presence of the Lord with me moment by moment and bringing me people who walked that with me, I would have given up because it was just too hard. I mean, I promised myself that I would never leave my kids, but it was a struggle. It was a fight to get through that level of depression.
The strength of these women and their families reminds us that even in the darkest parts of life, hope shines through. They remind us freedom has a cost, safety has a price, and the sacrifice echoes long after the last salute.
August 2nd, 2006, I didn't have a choice the news that was given to me, but I did have a choice how I responded. For me to feel sorry for myself, to curl up in a ball, that wouldn't bring Mark back. The stress would physically make me sick and destroy me, and that's not how God wired me. So for me to be able to put on his gear, pick up his weapon, figuratively speaking, put on his boots and continue to fight for our men and women who sacrificed and given so much for the freedoms that we enjoy every day and for every other Gold Star family, that's my honor to do that. And as long as God gives me breath, I will continue to do this. Losing Mark was the toughest thing I've ever been through in my life, yet the most strength I've ever seen given to me, by my Lord and Savior. And then a copy of his amazing last letter home that literally has changed millions and millions of lives around the world. And I look back, there's so much that's important and so much that's good in here, but he starts this with, glory is something that some men chase and others find themselves stumbling upon, not expecting it to find them. He completed his deployment. And for us, those of us who are here, we still have something we're supposed to do. And I do know that one day again, I will see him in heaven. But until then, I've got a mission, and I'm only halfway through my deployment and have so much more to do, as are you.
And because of the way that he lived with such excellence, somebody told me after he passed that they considered him the poster boy of the sheriff's office, that he was the example that everyone in leadership expected them to rise to, that he set the bar. And so when you talk about inspiration, I don't know if there's another person who would enlighten more inspiration than the way that Micah lived. And I have felt very motivated and called to step into his story and to step into what's happening in our culture. And that's the bigger picture, is to be able to talk about bridging the gap between the public and the police, restoring the relationship, restoring trust after generations of hardship that have come before us.
I am so proud because in between all the chaos, in between all the situation that they were living in, he said 115, 120 degrees, no food, barely any water, he was helping kids and women. I talked to him on the 21st and I encouraged him to do this. I talked to some of his friends after, and they said he makes sure that he helped as much kids and women as he could. He was the most caring person, and I think that all his background leading him to the Marines and to that exact time like helping people at the gate. It was who he was, and it was his purpose. This picture actually is the 13 that got killed in Afghanistan. And one of the moms created this badge that says the 13, never forget Afghanistan, the day, and the ultimate sacrifice. So this is all the 13. He's right here with Hunter Johanny, Taylor Hoover, Deegan Page, David Espinosa, Karem Nikui, Riley McCollum, Jared Smith, Ryan Knaus, Dylan Merola, and this is the dot, Maxton Sobiak and Nicole G right here. But this is the 13 that lost their life on that day on Afghanistan and the Abbey Gate. This is a group that we never want to be part of. But if you're one of those moms, one of those dads or family member, they just joined this group. I guess that my best advice for you is to turn that pain into something powerful. Because this is the only thing that has actually helped me to go through the grief, the pain, the missing, the sadness. And then one of the cool things about this room is like, when I get up in the morning, I go to my kitchen and it's just like my day goes on, and when I have to go out and do my day out or go to work, whatever, I have to come through this room because my garage is right there and my car is right there. So this is just like the feeling of you're with me. And that's how I feel. Like, that's why I picked this special place close to my garage, because it's like every time I leave, I know that he is with me.
I suggested, hey, we should give back to the community. We should do something in memory of Bert. We should do something that he would have want to, help people to continue to move forward, and with people that are struggling or maybe in the same situation you were. And now we've started a scholarship in his name to give back to students who are struggling to go to school. We started an AMVETS post for veterans so that we can give back to the struggling community of veterans. A lot of veterans struggle as they come back here stateside from what they went through, what they seen. She's taken what had happened to Bert and turned it into, those emotions, those powerful feelings, into something that we can give back to the community in Bert's name, just how he would have wanted it.
So that's just a picture of the 13, but then I imagine like 6,000 kids that they were like doing their duties at the airport, those 10 days, 15 days maybe, because some of them they have a few more days extra. But then all the struggle that they went through, all the things that they saw, and once they got out of the military, they don't find a purpose, and then 9 of them already commit suicide. So that's a really big cause to our hearts that is really close to my heart, to help as much as we can with mental health, and like the kids, they need, I always call them kids, they're kids for me, but they need the support from our communities, and they just need to feel the love. Like, we love them and we want them to be happy and to have a purpose.
Pretty soon I saw I had a new mission in life. Mark's last letter home talks about doing more random acts of kindness. He said, when's the last time you paid for a stranger's cup of coffee or meal or tank of gas? And then, I'd be in Washington, D.C. when another Navy SEAL came in with his, face blown off. And God's equipped me to be able to encourage and support and not go in, not freak out when I see the injuries, not baby them. That's not what they need. And another one that came in with his legs blown off. And pretty soon I saw, okay, God's got a new purpose and a new, passion for me because of the pain. And I started America's Mighty Warriors. Mark's name means Mighty Warrior, but it's not just about Mark. Our foundation's not Mighty Warrior, it's America's Mighty Warriors, because it's about all of our veterans who served and sacrificed. It's about all of our Gold Star families who've given so much for the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day.
This is the flag that was on top of Micah's casket at his funeral. It has the 21 artillery shells in it that they folded up and presented And Micah actually passed away on the 11th anniversary of joining with the sheriff's office. So February 5th to February 5th. Micah used to call me Peach. That was his nickname for me. We would play Mario Kart when we were dating, and I was the princess Peach. And there's a headstone over there with their family surname is Peach, and I saw that, and I felt his presence. They say it takes 3 to 5 years to begin to rebuild your life after loss, and I really thought that I could fast track that. I thought that if I grieved really well and I saw therapists and I did all the right things and I read the right books, that I could skip the line. And what I've learned is that there is no fast tracking the process. Every experience, every challenge, every night that you don't sleep, every time when you cry so hard that your face swells, that all of that is rebuilding you into a new person who has deeper compassion, who has greater capacity, who loves well. And I would say around year 5, I started to feel like I could be really proud of who I was and who I had become after his loss, and that I think Micah would be proud of me and who, what has had to be rebuilt or built anew in me and the kids. And we've just become kind of this little tribe where we vacation together, we hang out together, we do life together, the good and the hard. This is the Medal of Honor. Micah received this at the annual awards banquet after he was killed in service to his fellow officers and to his community. And this is one that you have to give your life to receive this award. And so we're constantly navigating the developmental stages of them missing their dad, and me walking through that with them. But I think, we have more sunshine than rain. We have a lot of strength. We have a lot to offer. We have a new level of stability and confidence. And I think that we have a story that can help build hope in people who are hopeless.
The stories of Humberto, Micah, and Mark do not go untold. The perseverance to share these stories not only honor those they've lost, but bring messages of comfort to those who struggle just like them.
The process is not easy, but I always think about he wants to join the military to make me proud. He wants to make the military to show me that he can be and do something bigger and better. And so when I go through the darkest moments, I always think of I have to be the best person, the best version of myself, just because I want to show my other ones that we can do something good out of something bad. And just how strong he was and how his death impacts so many lives. We have to do the same.
To those who have lost someone, I want to encourage you that this is not the end, that you can make it, that you can take this one day, 1 hour, sometimes one breath at a time. But I want to encourage and challenge you to not give up. Don't think too far in the future. Be present in this day. Ask for help. Let other people come around you and support you. When you can smile and laugh, have a good day. And when it's hard, be real. Be honest about that. But this is not the end. And you can and you will survive this.
My family and friends, do me a favor. Pass on the kindness, the love, the precious gift of human life. God gives us the strength to do what we do, but we can't do this alone. God bless our troops. God bless America.